We're joined by Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. First of all, Congressman, Merry Christmas coming up and Happy Holidays, Happy New
Merry
Year
Christmas.
to you. It's been a
You
little
too.
while. How you been?
I'm doing fine. Merry Christmas to you and your family. And I saw you last night on Jesse. You did a great job talking about this crazy IG report about all these 26 confidential human sources who were there, just like we suspected they were on January 6, 2021.
Yeah, so what happens now? Obviously, I don't think anybody, neither you nor I nor anyone listening, says, "Oh, the FBI's got this covered. Thanks for all the transparency." What happens? What do you want to know? Where are we taking this to get real answers?
Yeah, I want to know how many of these confidential human sources are still confidential human sources for the FBI. I want to know how much they were paid. You know, we know some of them were directly reimbursed for coming there, were tasked to come there by the FBI. But, you know better than anyone how this works. You give information, you get paid if you're a confidential human source. And I always say that's a fancy name for being a spy.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's a
that's what they
domestic. It's
were.
a domestic spy for all intents and
Yeah,
purposes. I mean, it's the same thing.
exactly. So how much were they getting paid? Are they still confidential human source? And I would like to know a little more details about what they did. Were they in the first? Because we know four of them actually entered the Capitol. They weren't authorized to break any law. None of them have been charged, which again underscores this concern we have about unequal application of the law. It's one big problem. So I want to know, did they go through any broken windows? What were they doing? Because we know the confidential human sources that were involved in this crazy Whitmer plot up in Michigan with Governor Whitmer, that they were the guys kind of instigating the whole thing, and that case largely fell apart in court. So I think there's lots of questions that this report answers, but it did confirm again what we all suspected.
Also, what do you think? I mean, there's what we're gonna get as answers. So I know you can't give us a hard and fast here, but were you a little taken aback by why would there be so many in this? This wasn't this wasn't a group of people that you would assume would have a lot of confidential FBI informants around them, right? I mean, they're first of all, a vast majority of the people that were present in the Capitol area, I should say, including all the way up to the Washington Monument.
Yes,
They didn't break any laws. There were a lot of people that gathered
correct.
there who were just there to protest. So why 26 confidential informants in this group of people? Meaning, what were they reporting on before January 6th if they weren't there at the direction of the FBI? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think it's this whole push, this whole, domestic terrorism. Remember, this is the
Right.
same FBI that had the memorandum in Richmond, at the Richmond field office, which said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. So, and if you look at their budget is the FBI budget, annual budget, is about $11.3 billion, I think. More than half of that is on intelligence, counterintelligence, and domestic terrorism. Most Americans kind of think their FBI is out there getting traditional bad guys, the gang members and organized crime and money laundering, all that stuff. But no. Most of what the FBI is doing is surveilling Americans. So I think that's sort of the fundamental point. But then, this Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and that falls right into that whole mindset that they have. But I'm also a little concerned because remember, this was a First Amendment protected rally that took place at the Ellipse. That they had no idea that anything was going to happen at the Capitol, and yet you got this many people. So I think you're right. I'm concerned about all of that in this trend, and again, that's why I'm excited about Kash Patel coming in and hopefully straighten that place up, which I think he's going to do.
Well, I mentioned it on Jesse's last night. I just, as a point of institutional memory, I think it was shocking to people. This is a much lesser issue, although still pretty bad when the IRS is being weaponized. Remember, the
Yeah.
IRS was slow rolling and investigating and harassing anybody with like Patriot, Tea
Yep.
Party. They were
Exactly right.
used by the Obama administration. I mean, this was a real thing, and this was admitted to, and this actually happened. And really, there was never any accountability for it. It just kind of got swept aside. Lois Lerner, I still remember her name.
Yep.
And to
Yep.
me, as somebody who worked on the counterterrorism side of the NYPD and the CTC of the CIA, it feels like some of the things that we used to do to stop people from, strapping suicide vests to their chest in the subway, some of the same kind of tactics and machinery of law enforcement and intelligence gathering were switched and started to be used against Trump supporters. And I know saying that
Yep.
out loud may strike people as, oh my gosh, is that really possible? But Congressman, I don't think that that's too far afield for what we've seen.
No, and the evidence supports that theory, that belief, because we've not only seen it with the IRS, we see it with the FBI, we see it now with the FBI working with big banks. We released a report last week. 14,000 people in our federal government search the FinCEN database in the Department of Treasury 3 million times in 1 year, looking up information on Americans' banking transactions. And most of that information, actually almost all that information, was gathered without a warrant. They've turned that on its head, because typically the banks will say, oh, we see something suspicious. Under the law, we're supposed to report that. Some local hardware store owner is now suddenly taking out $20,000 cash withdrawals every other day. That's a suspicious thing. They report that. But what's happened is they've turned that on its head, and it's now the government saying, hey, can you check on so-and-so? Can you look at this? And in fact, after January 6th, this is what got us onto this. We had a whistleblower come tell us, after January 6th, the FBI sent an email to Bank of America saying, send us every credit card, debit card transaction of any of your customers in the Washington, D.C. area on January 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2021, and then overlay that with any purchase of a firearm they've ever made. Give us that information without a warrant. And the whistleblower came to us and said, we've pushed back on this because we knew this was wrong. That's what got us started on this investigation. So it's the FBI going to the banks, it's the FBI using confidential human sources, and of course it's the IRS and everything else. That is the concern, and that's why the American people, I think, spoke so loudly and clearly on November 5th, put people in these positions under President Trump who are going to stop this stuff.
Speaking of Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, and to that end of stopping this stuff, and also of accountability and finding answers that we're discussing right now, Kash Patel coming in. I know you know Kash. I know Kash. I think Kash is the man for this job at FBI. We know Christopher Wray is stepping down. What, to the degree you can just give us a short overview of it. Kash comes in. What has to happen that he can bring to fruition and work with Congress, work with the Oversight Committee on these issues, so that people can start to have faith that the FBI isn't being used as a weapon of politics, and they can trust what the FBI says to a degree. I mean, right now, Congressman, as you know, there's a tremendous amount of cynicism. How do the incoming Republicans fix this thing?
Well, first of all, I agree with you 100%. I think he's exactly the right guy for the job. We would not have known about the whole Russian collusion hoax but for Kash working with then Chairman Devin Nunes to give us that information, and God bless him. And I also think there's an irony here, because there was another Inspector General report earlier this week, the week Chris Wray announced that he's resigning, but that earlier report this week said that Chris Wray, when he first took the job, was spying on Capitol Hill staffers. And, of course, one of those key staffers he was spying on, Kash Patel, the guy who's going to take his position and clean that place up. The way he cleans it up is to do what you just said, Buck. Give us the answers to the questions you and I were just asking. How many of these guys are still on the payroll, these confidential human sources? Give us that information. How'd they get in the Capitol? We want to know little details. Were they organizing this, pushing this, or not? Or were they just innocent watching people? When did they go in? That first wave of people who went into the Capitol. I mean, give us some of those answers. That's how you clean it up, because it starts at the top. Starts with real leadership. And, it starts with President Trump, and he is definitely sending the right message and has the right approach. And then with Kash, but give us that information. That's how you stop it and clean it up and make the FBI work for the American people like they're supposed to.
And Congressman, I know that we don't really have answers, but can you help us walk through a little bit here? Just give me your sense of how concerned you are, what you believe so far, and what is going on with all this reporting about a bunch of drones flying around in the sky in New Jersey. I mean, this is what do you see here? What's real? What's not? What's happening?
I have no better answer than what you're giving your listeners. I really don't know. Now, I do know that Speaker Johnson got a briefing today. I've not talked with Mike since that briefing, and I don't know what he's maybe it's at a level where he can't even tell members of Congress. I don't know. But I look forward to hearing what Mike has to tell us, or what the speaker has to tell us when we're back in session on Monday. But I don't know anything more than what's been reported in the news, what I've seen. It certainly is a concern, and I know a lot of folks in certainly that part of the country, but I think all over the country are concerned about it. We just like our government. But, I always say this is the same FBI that can't tell us who put cocaine in the White House, can't tell us anything about this. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. Same FBI that can't tell us who leaked the Dobbs decision or, whatever, or took this long to give us a report on something we all sort of suspected was happening about confidential human sources there on January 6th. Again, all the more reason why we hope Kash gets there and cleans it up.
I just, Jim, I see all this happening, and I see what's going on with these different federal agencies, FBI, but also my old home agency,
Yep.
CIA, and even the CDC, and unfortunately the Secret Service, and it feels like confidence in the federal agency's ability to get the mission done, but also to be straight with the American people is at an all-time low, and that's really it's
Yeah.
actually not good for the country. I mean, it
No,
truly is a problem that needs to be fixed.
no, it is not healthy, and you want to trust your institutions, the key institutions, and I think you're right. You sort of pointed to, I think it really started to take off when it was the IRS targeting conservative groups. And then you saw it with how the government tried to keep information from us when you had the tragedy in Benghazi. And then you
Yeah.
saw the Russia collusion thing. And then on it goes all the way up to what we just were discussing. So that needs to change. And I think that's something that President Trump is going to change, again, by putting people in these positions who are real leaders, who understand they're there to serve we the people, not be weaponized and turned against we the people.
Congressman, what is the best Christmas movie before we let you go?
Wonderful Life. Yeah, Wonderful Life. It's great. Yeah.
Easy answer from the Congressman there. Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's
Jim Jordan, we always appreciate being with us. Thank you so much. Have a
you
great
bet.
Christmas
Thanks
holiday.
for all
We'll be
you do.
talking to you as you got to fix the country in 2025. So no pressure.
Okay. All right. Keep up the great work, Buck. Thanks.
Thanks,
Merry
man.
Christmas.
Thank you.